You keep doing this over and over again, trying to find the answer, only to find that you're feeling overwhelmed with the amount of decisions there are that can be made in the problem that you want solved. My greatest reminder for myself in the last couple of years, how many voices there are out there for us to listen to and how many of them are invalid. That's it. Like, I don't even know how else to say that. How many voices there are in the world to listen to and how many of them are invalid. I want to talk just for a moment before I get into it about why we can't listen to voices from people that either are irrelevant, from voices of people who are just no good. Bring this a little closer. From voices of people, I really want to talk to you here because this is important. Like, you can't just listen to everybody because everybody doesn't share your mission, your objective, or your heart. And some people are giving you advice that they read in a book, they have not proven. Some people are giving you advice that is not real. Some people are giving you advice that is minimal. Some people are giving you advice that is ... and I could ... One of my biggest concerns is you listening to a person who really doesn't know how to do the thing that you need to have done. And then you listen to them and you listen to them forever until you end up at the end of that road with them. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is no good. I didn't get to where I needed to get to. I am lost. I am behind. I am without. I've wasted resources. That is so frustrating. There's a chapter in my book that I talk about, and let me just say this, to get a question answered, I think what I'm going to do is make it really easy. To get a question answered, you're just going to send me an email to tiffany@tiffanylargie.com. That's it. So if you've got a question and you got like, I got a situation, I got to figure this thing out, I don't know what to do next. Or you've been going down different roads and everybody has a method and you're like, which one's going to get me to, whoa, that was so monumental. And you're like, which one is going to get me? Which one is going to get me to the win? I know for a fact that if you allow me to just speak with you, and I'm going to help you get to the answer, and I'm also going to help you figure out what will and won't work. That's first. Second, don't be surprised if the answer is basic. You don't have to always complicate the answer or the solution. You can just say, you know what, this is good enough. And as we go along, I want you to settle for the fact that you have had a lot of the answers all along. You just don't know how to access or use them. My email is tiffany@tiffanylargie.com. So today, tiffany@tiffanylargie.com. Today is Tequila with Tiffany, and we are gentleman jacking. So Tequila with Tiffany is every single Wednesday. I am here talking about the things. Now, the truth is that I am surprised by the amount of time and energy we give. I'm surprised by how much time and energy we're giving into the areas of our business and our life that are actually unfruitful, that really don't hold fruit, and they won't ever hold fruit. And they can't hold fruit because the tree, when it started, was fruitless. Well, Tiffany, how do you know when something is fruitless? Like, how do you actually know? How do you know? It's 7:15 and they can't find us. Hold on one second. Okay. So I'm gonna take a moment. I know I was. But it was a very treacherous journey. So I feel like I needed to start over for the sake of it.
You're live on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. On YouTube? Wolves and sheep clothing. Wolf in sheep clothing is probably one of the hardest things ever because you don't know who to trust. So instead of operating full out and instead of doing the thing what you end up doing is you end up like making decisions that keep you safe instead of making the decisions that take the kind of risk that you need in order to get to the objective you want to get to. My statement to you is take the kind of risks that allow you to get to the objective that you want to get to. I know that you feel, or you might feel like, well, how do I know if I'm doing the right thing? Or how do I know if those objectives are the right objectives? And I'm going to say to you, sometimes you don't know, but if you don't take the risk big enough, then you'll never know. If you don't take the risk big enough, then you'll never, ever know. If you don't take the risk big enough, you'll never, ever know. I know that for me, the thing that the most important thing is me looking through my life. So let me tell you about how desensitized I feel that we are as a society, but I feel that we are in business. It's like we become desensitized and we don't even realize it. We're desensitized to a lot of things. We're desensitized to the process. We're desensitized to things we're hearing about online. We're desensitized to wars that are happening. We've become desensitized to floods. And if it's not a flood, it's an earthquake. And if it's not an earthquake, it's a sickness. And you know why? It's because we kind of come to a place of, well, I just can't handle anymore. But that is no different. That type of going to sleep, like going on low power mode, is the same thing that's happening on the other side when you look at your business. In your business, you're on a low power mode where like we find ourselves in this low power mode and we're looking around going, why isn't anything happening? Or why don't I see such and such moving? Or how come I don't see enough money? Or why aren't there the right kind of customers or clients? It's because it's somewhere on the process, you went to sleep in an area. We either went to sleep in our sales department. Actually, I'm lying. You either went to sleep in two areas. One is our sales department. The other one is one of them is it's either your marketing or it's your sales. But for sure, it's one versus the other. I often get this question, which is, Tiffany, how do I keep the focus? And I'm like, you keep the focus by knowing what to focus on. You don't keep the focus by waking up every day and doing the thing. The biggest mistake that CEOs make, entrepreneurs, great humans who are trying to get somewhere, is that they're like, I know what the focus is. And then they delude themselves into believing that getting up every day and doing this is the focus. When all the truth of the matter is that doing this is also really, truly a bunch of like distraction. The real answer or the real win for us is in knowing what we're focused on and being able to touch and feel it. So today, when you woke up, like you had a choice. You were either going to do or you were going to learn. And for me, I kind of balance with like a combination of both, because I know that in between learning and in between doing is the answer. The key though is that I can't listen to multiple people, because everybody has an idea on how to build traffic. Everybody has an idea around team members. Everybody has an idea around company culture. Everybody has an idea around us doing like one of the things. And if I listen to 4 or 5 methods, I'm going to lose my mind. You know how easy it is to just lose your mind, especially with the kind of pressure we have? Let me tell you what you can't do. You can't afford to lose your mind. Like if you haven't written that down, let that be a moment. No matter what, you can't afford to lose your mind. You can't afford to be all over the place. And you can't afford to let this life thing happen and miss the boat, that whatever boat you were supposed to be on. I feel that either like one of my thoughts this morning is the answer for people to wake up. Like I hear in the spiritual world this idea around waking up, and I hear it, I get it. Have you ever heard it before? Have you ever heard this idea around waking up? The more time I spend with CEOs, or I just spend with just great humans, I see that once they've been doing a thing for a long time, part of them has become numb, and then there's no clarity around what is making it, or how to make it active again. So let me say these few things. Number one, you can't afford to miss the boat. That is like my biggest, okay, we can't afford to miss the boat. The second thing is listening to a lot of different people will drive you crazy in your head, and you'll get nowhere fast because everybody's running in a different direction. The third thing I'm going to say is be careful. Like the same way, like, I want you to think of this concept. Inside of the tools, the systems, the process for yourself that you're building, there's you on the inside, okay? So there's you on the inside, and then there's everything else on the outside. Now, we can't be like, I'm not going to eat meat, but yet we're letting toxic people in our business. I know this sounds crazy. But like, if we're going to say one thing over here on the left, well, I'm not going to have toxic food in my body. I'm not drinking. I'm not going to eat sugar. I don't eat at McDonald's, but yet you allow toxic people to be in your business and your world. Like, hello, same thing with your marriage, your relationship, your family. Like, how could you be? Nothing pisses me off more than the person who's like, no, I don't do this, but I tolerate that. I'm like, then maybe you're a hypocrite. It's like, we kind of have, like, if we want the big outcome, we have to be through and through. Let me tell you, I just wrote an email yesterday, and if you saw my email or you read it, if you haven't, you need to be on our list. This email is probably one of the best that I've written, because it comes from a place of conviction, and it really comes from a center of Ray Kroc. So Ray Kroc changes my absolute world this year, but he changes my world for so many reasons, starting with the fact that most people don't even realize that Ray Kroc started his entire journey. And if you know who Ray Kroc is, like Ray Kroc, McDonald's. Most people don't even realize that Ray Kroc didn't start his business journey of building this empire that makes us ridiculous today, called McDonald's, until he was 54 years old. We always look at people and we're like, oh, I don't have enough time, or I have a lot of time, or you know what, I've already wasted all my time. Now I'm 50 and so I can't do it anymore. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then we have the person who's 32, who's a millennial, and they're looking around the world and they're thinking to themselves, oh, well, I've already wasted so much time. You're 32, hush, sit down. There is so much living. You haven't even been an adult as long as you've been alive. To the person who's 50 years old, I want you to think about this. If you're 50 years old, like, we've only been an adult. If you're 50, you've been an adult for about 30 years. Let's say we're going to run this life game until you're 80, 85, 90. That means you have twice the amount of life left to do things. You're not even at your halfway point in your life and in your business. This is ridiculously important when we look at the equation. So for me, I was looking at Ray Kroc and I was like, googly moogly. I had no idea that Ray Kroc started this whole McDonald's thing at 54. At 51, he was still driving the country. He was rolling through different cities, selling milkshake machines. That's insane. He, like, think about this and think about this well. 51 years old, this guy, this man, he's a man. I got to give him the respect he deserves. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to give him the respect he deserves. He was legit. He was legit running around selling milkshake machines at age 51. And he starts McDonald's at 54. Let me tell you the three biggest takeaways. And I want you to start, I want to put this tone here so you can start to submit questions. And I'm going to start tomorrow privately answering questions. But I want to tell you real quickly about Ray Kroc, because I think that everyone misses the boat or the idea or the concept around the power that we have as humans. My number one lesson that I took away as a CEO is that he wasn't afraid to go into debt for something he believed in. So where I might be fooling around with like a couple of things, like I may have in the past been like, okay, we can get $20,000 for that, $40,000 for that. This guy was going into debt or taking out loans or looking for people to lend him money in the millions to buy him the time, the bandwidth, or the infrastructure for what he was looking for. Isn't that crazy? It's like, I thought to myself, I was like, man, this is wild, because I don't know that I ever heard anybody tell me that I could actually take out a loan. Like, I didn't even know basic things like that. And it's those basic things that trip me up. I think to myself today, man, not only did he have the confidence, but he had the clarity. So he took out loans, and you know what he took out loans for the majority of the time? To buy out things. So he bought out partners, he bought out team members, he bought out just things. And you think to yourself, well, why does it matter if he bought out things? Because he wasn't afraid to acknowledge the fact that emotionally he didn't feel great. And if he didn't really feel great, he really couldn't do anything worthwhile. Sometimes we don't realize, we don't even realize that we should be exhausting everything that we have access to and everything we are so that we could go and chase the dream. Like, I really want you to think about, I want you to think about exhausting everything. So here I am looking and learning from other CEOs who are starting from the ground up, right? And all this years, I've learned a lot of things and implemented. And yes, it's what allows me to get to multiple six figures and seven figures, et cetera. But the game changed for me when I saw that he was willing to buy out people just for the sake of his emotions and clarity at millions of dollars because he believed in the billions that were right beyond it. Man, I said to myself, I'm gonna tell you, I said to myself for real, after reading that, I was like, I've never even asked for $1 million, let alone whether or not I've been rejected, but I've never asked for $1 million, and I got $1 billion ideas. Then I was thinking to myself, I've never asked for $1 million, and I have $1 million ideas, $1 million ideas, $1 million ideas. Let me drink to that. Anyone else like that? Like, honestly, ask yourself this question. How big is it, whatever it is that you're building? Like, what are you building right now? How big is it? And what does it mean to you and your company? Because for me, real talk, like between you and me, I legit looked at that and I thought, this guy had the confidence. This guy had the confidence to go ahead and build the thing. But then he had the confidence to go and ask for money from banks, and then banks would turn him down at some points, and then he went to private people, but he kept asking people with big stakes on the table, knowing that he was in the red, knowing that he could risk everything, knowing that everybody who had worked for him could hate him, knowing that he might lose like the faith of every other person on the planet, but he didn't care. I promise you, as I think about listening to wolves in sheep's clothing, and just entertain me. If you're here, can you just put an emoji or something inside of this chat so that I can see it? Can you put something here so I can see it? So like that was his way of saying, I am here, world. You know, when I really said to myself, I was like, how come I have never heard from anybody? And then I thought to myself, you know, the difference between Ray Kroc and this? Ray Kroc wasn't trying to sell me anything. Ray Kroc decided he was going to write a book. He writes this book. God forgive me. Can someone look it up real quick? Was it the 60s or this, not 60s, mentira. Sorry. Was it the 70s or the 80s? Like, he writes this book, but all he's doing is leaving a roadmap for the world when he leaves this thing. Ray Kroc, McDonald's Ray Kroc. Ray Kroc, like, literally think about it. Like, he doesn't try to sell me anything. He's not even trying to help me. He's not even trying to, maybe sort of at some point. I went and did the research, and maybe someone correct me if I'm wrong, but he actually didn't try to sell anything other than the book. And I thought to myself, this guy left the roadmap, gave everything away for free, and told the game of how he built a world like McDonald's. The book is called Grinding It Out. It's the best book I think I've read in the last year. Now, this is not a moment about book clubs. This is specifically, it's not a moment about book clubs, but this is a moment for me of like, man, when I saw that Ray Kroc went over and over and over again, and why listen to this guy? Because he's never asked me for $1. And when I saw his willingness to leave for other business owners, other people who have been or thinking of wanting to create something huge or bigger than themselves or massive, and he leaves a roadmap on how he does it, he filters out nothing. He filters out none of his insecurities, none of the people who make him mad, none of his pains. Well, I mean, obviously he's not crying throughout the book, but he, more than one time, he's in a place of knowing that he's in a place of just simply knowing that he's got to grind this thing out to get to the end. Now, even though I don't, I'm not this, I don't want to give you the message of let's grind something out or let's, let's keep going until the end. That's not it at all. But for me as a CEO, my number one thought to myself was, Tiffany, have I ever taken $1 million risk? I put myself on the line for a couple 100,000 for sure. I've put myself on the line for more than that. In the building that we're going into, that we're moving into, the building is about, I don't know, $2 million. So maybe, but I don't know that I've risked myself. And that was my question. Like, how is it that I'm really playing the game? And have I been so desensitized in listening to other people? Have I been desensitized on what I'm receiving or putting in my body? Have I been desensitized and not even realizing that I wasn't taking $1 million risk? So therefore, not that I can't build $1 million company, because I've already done that. It's like I can't really think about questions like, how do we get to $1 billion? How do we get to Wembley? How do we? I saw this book and I said to myself, of all the business books that I've seen written in the last couple of years, I think the truest thing is that he continues to take risk for 5-6 years, even though he's in the red. He takes risks nonstop, but massive risks. He loses his marriage, or he doesn't lose it. He leaves the woman. So let me talk about something else outside of risk. So he's with this woman. Okay, let's talk about this. We're about to drink to this. Cheers to that. And if you're having a drink with me tonight, can you take a picture and put it in the chat? Can you take a picture and put in the chat? Only if you are on the registered list. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, go to beatthenext.com. All I'm doing is answering questions. I just needed a clear way to have questions come in. We're not selling you anything. There's nothing else. I just need a clear way for questions come in. So let me talk about this. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I feel like I need to, because this is what I was like, slap, 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 slap. If you're having a drink with me, whether it's water, tea, or you have your own whiskey and Coke, please let me know. So he's got this wife. I want to say her name is Ethel. Why does that sound like the wrong name? But that's another conversation. Watch somebody be like, that's my mama's name. And I'm going to be like, sorry. So he's got this wife. And this wife of his, he is doing all the working, doing all the things. He says to his wife, I got this idea. I'm building something. Here I go. Gets to the table, begins building, seeing progress, losses, progress. And here's the truth of the whole matter. He says to his wife, I think he says to her once, at least once, this McDonald's thing is going to be huge. Come help me. And she's like, no. That is such a lesson, because no, I don't think she goes, no, boo. I don't think she gets hood with it. And I definitely don't think that she's like clear enough like that, but she absolutely goes, mm-mm. She doesn't really help. She doesn't get involved. And you know what happens when she doesn't help and she doesn't get involved? You know what happens when she doesn't help and she doesn't get involved? He leaves her. I love this part. I know someone's going to be like, Tiffany, are you happy a marriage ended? No, I'm happy that the truth and the hunt for self and the truth of desires got to the surface. Can anyone identify that with that? Can I just have like a silent amen, even if you're not going to put amen here? Can we just like appreciate the truth in that? As I think to myself about like him making a decision to leave her, and I know someone's gonna be like, Tiffany, how dare you? I'm happy about it. I'm not happy about it because a marriage ends. I'm happy about it because the truth wins. If you say to your partner, if you got a best friend, I'm gonna tell you right now, anyhow, I have a best friend. If I have a person I'm sleeping with every night and I say, here are my dreams, and I give you my dreams, and then I'm like, I'm sleeping with you every night. I give you my dreams, and then you're like, and I'm not gonna help you, you've got to go. Or if you're gonna help me part-time, you've also got to go. Let me tell you something. The person who's not helping you and the person who's helping you a little bit, they both got to go. The person who's helping you halfway, they got to go too. There's a period at the end of that for me. Let me just drink to that because I feel like I just celebrated myself. They've got to go. And if you watch this on the replay, please let me know that you're watching this on replay, and please let me know that you please repeat for me, they have got to go. If you are in an intimate relationship at any point, especially when you're building something big and the person who is with you, they're like, I'm not going to do it. They actually have to go. I don't know how else to say that. They got to go. I don't care how old you are. Every time I think, so there's a person in our community in one of my companies, and I don't coach her, but I get to see her from afar. And I'm always so excited about her. Her name is Carmen. You know, she made one of the hardest decisions of life ever. And after 30 some years of marriage, she came to one of our programs in one of the companies I own, and she would go through these programs. And at the core of it, we talk about tolerations, you know? And what was wild was one day her being faced with the fact that not that her marriage no longer served her. Forget that stuff. I'm not talking about this petty stuff. I'm not talking about your unwillingness to stick out hard times or your unwillingness to fight for what's, right. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about the person who you are sleeping with and without clothes, the person who is your bestie, the person who is riding with you, and they go, I'm either not going to help you or I'm going to help you as much as I want to, a little bit. They've got to go. Carmen heard some version of this a couple of years ago, and I'll never forget the note that she sent in a note to that team. And she was like, I'm paraphrasing for sure, but she lets us know that she made a decision. She filed for divorce. She got up, she left her house. Now, everybody was like shocked, but the most important part is that she had been married for 30 some years. Now, fast forward, I'm not going to tell you all the details in between, because one day I hope to have her on our podcast more. But the coolest thing is that we inquired about where she is and what's happening with her. And in the last year and a half, of course, it wasn't easy, but here's what did happen. She became an on-demand speaker. People were asking her to speak everywhere. Next week, she hosts her very first retreat in person, teaching people about history. I want to say the cost for it was $2,500. And mind you, she starts with zero. She also starts in her 50s and her 60s. I don't remember. The next thing is she writes a whole book. She writes a book that becomes, I don't want to call it, I don't know what the status is, but I do know in the state that she's in, she's done 3 or 4 book signings. She's sold thousands of copies. People have her in demand. And I just saw a picture where they put her, like they took the wall of a library in her city, and it's a whole huge glass wall. And I thought to myself, all because she decided they got to go. The person and people who are on your camp, they got to be in your camp, like for sure. They can't be partially in your camp, because you're building something too big. For me in business, I'm going to be really honest. One of my biggest takeaways was this. I've never asked for $1 million. I've sold $1 million. I've signed $1 million contract. I've done deals and I've built $1 million business. But I've never asked for $1 million in a loan. Now, I've also never, and I don't want you to think this is about asking money. This is actually just about the risk that you're taking. That was my aha for myself. Am I taking the kind of risk as a CEO that the craziness of what I envision that's possible for us entails? I've taken pretty big risks. Now, I remember bridging that question once to someone who I love, and they love me too, friend. And I remember she said to me, Tiffany, I don't know anybody who takes as big a risk as you do. And I was like, the truth of the matter is that here's what's real. That risk that you're talking about, that might be the big enough for everybody else, but that's the starting point for me. I look at where McDonald's is today, and I think to myself, man, it's not really about legacy, but let me just read you some facts, some ridiculous facts about this. He starts building McDonald's when he's 54 years old. He's flipping 54 years old. He's 54 when he starts, not when they get to the height. Let me drink to that, because I don't think you understand how important that is. Can you put the word 54 years old in the chat so I know that you heard me? 54 years old. How old are you right now? He starts it. You know how many years it takes him before anything ever happens? I believe, I'm going to read it. I'm reading that book again next month. He's in the red for like 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. This thing is not making money. Last year, McDonald's did $23.8 billion by themselves. Today, there are 36,000 stores in over 100 countries. And last time I checked, I didn't write it in the email, but last time I checked on this company, as a company, only own 5% of the stores that are out there. which means they were able to create a movement. No matter what you think, whether you like McDonald's or not, I haven't eaten McDonald's personally in many years. But it doesn't change the fact that he started a movement. Yes, McDonald's was for the consumer, but McDonald's really, the movement inside that internal was giving average awesome people the ability to start a business, to be business owners, to be what's called owner operators, to build something with their family and build micro legacies within the macro legacy. And I thought to myself, you know, for so many reasons, that is exactly what I'm interested in. And then I started asking myself, I was like, Tiffany Largie, you have never gone to a bank and said, hey, bank, can I have $1 million? And then I'm like, why not? Do you know why you haven't? Have you ever done something like that? No, not 10,000 and not 20,000. That's not what I'm talking about. I've asked for that. I've gotten that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about $1 million. Right out of the gate, this guy goes and he gets $1 million. And you know, it's like, you ask one person and then you think, well, okay, great. They said no, then that's it. What I love the most about Ray Kroc and about grinding it out, and this is a version of Tequila with Tiffany as I prep the world for Be at the Next. Until I get tired, which is probably going to be at the end of the month, I'm going to be answering business questions, and I'm just literally going to be live at 5 to 6, answering questions and doing 2 or 3 hot seats with people who need help. Because after reading that book, I was like, this guy gives the entire game away and he doesn't have a thing to sell. If you really pay attention to how he chooses owner operators and how he gives people opportunities to run businesses and start with their families and how much he believes in it, he inspires me to just give just because you can. Now, that's a sidebar message for this, but the sidebar truth of it is that, man, if you would be willing to see what's possible, if you were willing to see what's possible in your vision, like whatever that vision is, I feel like all bets would automatically, awesomely be off. You know, I think that's it. I think I'm complete. So my purpose of this was to walk into Tequila with Tiffany and ask the question of, are we building the thing big enough, or do we have the idea that's big enough to support it? The second thing was to talk about how Ray Kroc changed my life, and he did. And I wish he were alive today because I sent him a note. I don't know if he liked hearing from women. I don't know if he liked Black people. I don't know. It wouldn't matter to me. I totally would send him a note because I really feel like I owe him a thank you for all the gurus and gurued people and people who have knowledge and how to do the such and such. All of it is behind a paid wall, and not all of it is real and true. So the person who is sitting in front of their computer in their 3rd bedroom and building an entire quote unquote business like that and feels that they then have the right to have the authority for how a business should be ran without really having to balance a real P&L that has all the moving parts, that's dangerous. Ray Kroc's idea of, let me tell you actually the most important lesson that I'm taking away with it. And then I'm going to say, if you have a question, please make sure you submit it to Tiffany@tiffanylargie.com. But more than that, it's this. As McDonald's got really big and it became a different entity on its own, meaning like it was just large in size, it was profitable, they were doing millions and millions of dollars, other countries, the stakes got higher. I loved the fact that he still got in his car, even though he could have sent other people, but he got in his car and would go to sites, go meet the people and see how to build, like he would be connected to the community. He still wanted to talk to the owner operators. He still wanted to be he still maintained what most people think are the menial things, or someone else should do it, or it should be the task of someone else. And he really and truly, he maintains, I feel like I read until his dying days, he maintains being the one to carry out the vision, collect the right people, plead his case about why McDonald's, and more importantly, to sell the value and to sell the position. And then the other people, the 3 or 4 people who were building with him at the time, because I think there's only 3 or 4 people who build with him. Like, if I remember correctly, they get to millions of dollars in many stores, and there's still only 3 people in the office. 3 people in the office, millions of dollars in debt. But the other people, they also had to be leaders as well, and they had to go out and do their own version of hunting and farming in their areas. One CFO, one administrative, and one something else. I think there's 4. And that spoke to me because I'm like, man, you know, where everybody is believing that you need some massive leadership team and all these things and tons of people in all these positions. Well, this is not my role, and that's your role. And if you did your, or if we just hired this person, that's how this wheel will turn. And I'm like, no, that is someone being desensitized from running. That is also someone who wants to, uh, um, uh, like, like you could have a job or you could be part of a mission. I don't know how else to say that. And even for me as a CEO, I have a job. Like you could have a job or you could be part of a mission. And for me, the most truthful moment is that I actually I cannot walk through the mission. A mission is, it's not that it's because I'm tired. Sometimes I'm lifting, sometimes I'm pushing something hard, sometimes I'm whatever, sometimes I'm resting. But it's a mission, which means I'm operating in sprints, and I should be moving faster than everybody else who is just working to work, who is spending endless amount of hours on TV, watching TV, who is spending endless amount of hours clicking and playing games and Candy Crushes and all of the above, who's consuming way too much hours of YouTube content, not frying their mind, but weakening their mind and weakening their soul and their spirit. I know, here I am off on a tangent, but I promise you this free move that Ray Kroc made, it really changed me. And I just wanted to share it because it's so powerful that I'm like, that's it. That's it. I'm done. I'm done. So, somewhere is a link to go and do some things. At a minimum, either Tiffany@tiffanylargie.com or make sure you're registered at beatthenext.com. So that way you and I can spend the next couple of days one question at a time, sorting and sifting through the toughest business challenge. And my goal is to do it at 5 o'clock every single day. So you know that there's help wherever you are in the world, and there's help when you need it right on time. If you have questions here below, I'm absolutely going to answer them myself, every single one. And if you've ever read this book, please let me know. And if you're thinking to yourself, I've never done that, I've never asked for $1 million like Tiffany. If you've not swung a bat big enough or hard enough or high enough to whatever it is you're building, and you had this aha, and also if you realize that you've gone to sleep a little bit in the last 2 years and you're like, wake up, wake up. And something inside of you knows that you're operating at a 12 versus the 34 that you were either made for or built for. I want to know that right here too. I have so enjoyed spending this time with you. I am excited and grateful that you've given me the one thing you'll never get back, which is your time. And what I know is that you're moments away from doing whatever it is that forces us to set it all on fire. I will see you tomorrow. And if you're here for Tequila with Tiffany, I will see you next Wednesday at 5 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Good night.